I am the queen recovering super spaz. And I always say recovering because if you're like an addict to anything, that means that you have to actively work at being aware and consciously aware of triggers, what we are allowing to continue, and actually like taking ownership and responsibility for how much of this we've contributed to versus what is external. So, like with anxiety, with any, literally any emotion, maybe it's not the emotion that you love the most, but we need all of them, just like we need all the letters in the alphabet. If you all of a sudden told people, like, listen, you can't use the letter O and T and B anymore, like, you're going to lose a lot of words that you can utilize in your vocabulary and to spell with, right? Or you and I know have given the analogy of like, it's like the weather. You know, you look outside and it's cloudy and you're not like, oh man, like, yeah, you could be pissed if you want, but that's not going to change that it's cloudy. It's information that says, okay, the last time it was cloudy, it ended up raining. It doesn't guarantee that it's going to, but now that I know that, I'm going to pack a jacket instead. So anxiety, like literally any emotion, is it's information, right? So like that's the kind of overarching like answer is what is it actually trying to tell me? And I know there's been like themes on TikToks where people will be like, your anxiety's lying to you and this and that. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's just we don't always understand it. So, like, the big thing is number one, figuring out like what is going on like with me and what is like potentially triggering it. But also with anxiety is a spectrum and it's an umbrella term. So like that means that we can have a sliding scale of anxiety. So we can have like, you know, acute kind of, ooh, I'm anxious for, you know, a date or a podcast or whatever, to full on panic attacks. And those are very different protocols. And then, you know, with that as well, it's also mostly like a list of symptoms. So we all experience anxiety differently, and it's obviously it's really common. We know that like, you know, 40 million Americans have anxiety, but there's also different kinds of anxiety, right? There's like OCD, there's generalized anxiety, there's panic attacks, there's social anxiety, which, you know, I joke and I'm like, that's why I love to cancel on plans, like, but so on and so forth, right? But with all of that, all we also know that there are actually different neural pathways that are involved in anxiety. And that's why there is never going to be a one size fits all protocol or approach for anxiety. So I think we need to first also ask ourselves, what kind of anxious person am I? This goes for stress as well, right? Like, what kind of stressor am I, or any health ailment you have? Like, what kind of person am I when I don't get enough sleep? What kind of person am I when I'm sick? Because those are going to all dictate what kind of protocol you have. So let's say that you are the kind of person that when you are anxious, you get like, you go down rabbit holes. You worry about worry. You think about fake scenarios that are never going to happen. Like, you kind of shame spiral. You're kind of like all over the map, right? That for many people is actually what we would call cortex based anxiety. So that is stemming from the prefrontal cortex, which is actually our logical brain. So for that kind of anxiety, if you're that kind of worry person who again worries about worry, you're just, you know, like anxious all the time, like always impending doom, right? About like what could potentially go wrong, waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? That kind of person actually does really well with the what we would see in traditional like therapy for anxiety. So, cognitive behavioral therapy, maybe doing stuff like brain dumps, potentially like writing things out, like journaling, all that kind of stuff, because that's your logical brain. So, you could say, like, oh my God, Brianna, you are like freaking out right now. This is actually, you know, a story. This is not a fact, right? And so, this is the kind of anxiety that when somebody says, just you should calm down, you're like, you know what? Maybe I should calm down. Maybe I'm overreacting. So, like, that's a very different protocol, right? So, if you're that kind of anxiety person, there's definitely protocols for that. Then we have the other person who quite literally you feel anxious all the time. And as you know, like you're the queen of this, like checking in with energy, frequency, bodies, like it's body language for a reason. Our body is talking to us. Maybe you just were triggered by something or an environment or a person or a smell, because this part of this kind of anxiety deals with our amygdala, that emotional based anxiety. So if you're the kind of person who actually gets, again, physically anxious, you maybe get anxiety out of nowhere. A lot of the times, because this deals with triggers, pairings, and associations, this is why if you tell this kind of person, just calm down, they literally can't, because they have adrenaline and epinephrine and cortisol running through their bodies. And so also the way that the amygdala is placed in the brain, it's actually in the center of the brain, which is why sometimes we overreact to things. And then when things calm down, we're like, ooh, you know what? Maybe that was like a bad move. So with that kind of anxiety, if we're quite literally feeling anxious and we have a lot of this pent up energy, you doing like a brain dump or logically trying to talk yourself off the ledge is not going to work. You need to actually put yourself into a parasympathetic state. So you can do things like working on activating the vagus nerves. You can put like a cold ice pack on your chest or take a cold shower. You can also do things like movement. You can do things like guided imagery as well. Because if you can imagine a crazy fake scenario, that means that you can imagine yourself into a good scenario. You know, some people will say like anxiety is just like a misuse of your imagination. So that is something where we have to think about actually moving that. How can we put ourselves into a more parasympathetic state? Breathing into a bag, right? Like I said, movement, screaming. I know it sounds crazy, but like screaming, anything to move that energy out, right? I joke and say that I'm going to develop something one day called the Rage Institute, where you can just go and like rage clean or like punch a pillow, anything that's going to move that kind of cortisol, adrenaline, epinephrine out. So those are going to be kind of the way that we need to start is figuring out what kind of anxious person am I? Am I physically feeling anxious, or am I shame spiraling mentally in my head? And then you kind of adjust your protocols from there.
Okay, love that. Where do I want to go with this? It's funny. Well, what do you find more people come to you with? Because I
Most
would,
people come
I,
to me, I think, with the first one, right? The cortex
mm,
based anxiety. I mean, and what's interesting is that sometimes, of course, the other amygdala based anxiety is a secondary result, because if you're thinking yourself into crazy scenarios or whatever, like, yeah, you're gonna feel anxious
yeah.
because so much of it, what we experience, 6.8 million Americans have generalized anxiety, meaning that we are just constantly anxious about everyday things like, am I, gonna be accepted to this school? Does this person like me? Is my boss gonna fire me? Right? Like everyday life kind of stressors. And a lot of the times I think we make a lot of the problems for ourselves because we are still allowing things to remain in our lives that actually don't serve us anymore. We're not taking responsibility for things. We're very aware of triggers, whether that's triggering people, environments, jobs, relationships, situations, and it's just easier to stay, or I can't leave, or whatever it is, right? So I think a lot of it I see kind of the first part, but I mean, it kind of depends. If some people love it though. Some people thrive on that. Like they pretend that they don't love that chaotic energy, but that's actually maybe how they grew up, and their neural pathways have gotten really used to that and they've gotten addicted to that. So they find other ways to create that, kind of in their day to day life.